Let's see what's out there.
Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There, a weekly video stream and podcast currently focused on Star Trek Picard Season 3, which is available to watch on Amazon Prime or Paramount Plus. I'm Keith Isles, and as ever I am joined by
Pete Mealy.
And we are both film and television enthusiasts. And in today's episode, we are going to have a spoiler-filled conversation around two parts, parts 8 and part 9, which are entitled Surrender and Vox. So you've been warned, spoilers ahead on Star Trek Picard Season 3 up to that point. So here you go, Pete. Obviously, you're on the most appropriate bridge ever there by the looks.
Yeah.
Good. Sorry we missed last week. Last week I wasn't able to do, unfortunately, because my dad was quite ill in hospital, but I'm really pleased to say that he's had a procedure today and he's recovering from that, and he's the other side. So raise a mug to my dad.
Indeed.
So so we've got quite a bit to talk about because we've got essentially we've got two episodes, the last one being the penultimate episode of this season, and in fact this series, if everything is to be believed. So yeah, we've got quite a lot to cover. But are you excited, Pete, to talk more about this?
I am excited to get into this, yeah.
Right. Well, in that case, let's not waste any more time. We have got anyone that's new, welcome. If you do find this kind of content interesting, please do consider giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the bell icon for notifications of future live streams and video streams and content. This channel, we focus purely on film and television. We have obviously been covering the entire season so far of Star Trek Picard Season 3, so go back and check some of that out. But we have a very basic agenda that we follow. It's all a bit of fun, really. So we do a bit of episode summary. We have a look at the production credits. We talk about Easter eggs and references, of which obviously these are aplenty. And then we have our predictions for how this is all going to end and what our real thoughts and our rank pin rating. So yeah, that's kind of the format of the show. And without any further ado, let's engage.
Part 8, Surrender. Vadic takes control of the Titan and starts to execute what crew is left unless Jack surrenders on the bridge. Jack masters his ability to control other people's bodies with his mind, but gets caught trying to reboot the ship via mind controlling a hostage. Back on the Shrike, Riker and Troy are healing after getting beaten by Vadic and her crew and trying to heal their marriage. Then Worf shows up and saves them. On the Titan, they decide they need to get Data functional to computer the computer. So they take down the wall between Data and Lore. Jack goes to the bridge with a grenade and holds everyone hostage, while Lore eats all the parts of Data, which turn him into Data, and then Data saves the day. They blow Vadic and her crew into space, where Vadic smashes into 1,000 pieces just before the Titan does the same to the Shrike. Diana comes on board and immediately complains about the lighting. Wait a second, maybe she was being prophetic. No, she meant Jack. So with everyone in agreement, she sits down with Jack, and we will have to wait. Nope, here we go. On with the next one, Part 9, Vox. Troy and Jack open the door, and it's the Borg. Picard still has Locutus receiving ability, and he passed on to Jack a Borg transmitting ability, which is why Vadic needs Picard's body and Jack's. This means Jack is basically a Borg weapon, so they lock him up, or at least they try to, until he mind controls the guards and walks right out to try and find the Borg. He gets transwarped in and meets the Borg Queen. He tries to kill her, but, resistance, it's futile. Meanwhile, at Frontier Day, all of the fleet has been getting Picard's receiver DNA implanted via transporters. Score one for McCoy, belatedly. Admiral Shelby does a pretty speech. Picard tries to break in and warn them, but it's too late. Everyone under 25 gets assimilated, like Geordie's daughters. Everyone older gets killed. The Titan starts going down, Shaw dies, and Seven gets a field commission to captain. Our crew needs a ship that can run with minimal crew, so they go get the Enterprise D, which means Picard gets a field demotion to captain. And we'll have to wait until next week to see them save Starfleet, the galaxy, and their kids.
There you go. Nicely done. Nicely done. I did like the Dr. McCoy reference in there for the transporters. Very good.
I mean, right? Like, there's a little callback.
Yeah,
Absolutely correct. Never trust a transporter.
exactly. And finally, a show where it's actually not so bad to be old for once.
Yeah, I mean, I feel real bad that both of us would have been assimilated. But
yeah, exactly. If only. Yeah. But there you go. There you go. By the way, in terms of some of our previous predictions, we were right about some things and wrong about others, right? But we haven't had a bad innings with that. So yes.
No.
We will get to that. But before we do, it's time to make it so. Okay, so this is where we just look at the credits for, well, we've got two parts to cover here. So obviously part 8 was once again directed by Deborah Krampmeyer, who we spoke about last time. So yeah, not really much to add there. But the writer credited for this was Matthew Okamura. Now, Matthew, we've not spoken about before on this show. But looking at Matthew's credits, writing credits, it goes back to 2003 with an episode of Smallville. So already he's in my good books, and was the story editor on Leverage Redemption, a staff writer on Blood and Treasure, and a executive story editor and story editor on Star Trek Picard, and currently has 15 episodes as working on that. So that includes seasons 2 and 3. So well, we'll forgive him season 2, I guess. But there you go. And then on to the next episode, which is the penultimate episode, Vox, episode 9. That was directed by our showrunner, Terry Matalas, who we've spoken about before. I did double check because obviously I know Terry Matalas as a producer and writer, and I just wondered whether he had done any previous directing. And the answer to that question is he has indeed. He directed some episodes of his previous show, 12 Monkeys. So he directed 4 episodes, in fact, in the 3rd and 4th seasons of 12 Monkeys. So he is experienced as a director, and I think if you look at the episode, you can definitely see that. We've got lots of love for Terry Matalas at the moment. He is a man who definitely understands Star Trek and is pleased the fans no end with this show so far. If you read all of the reviews that are out there. Part 9 was written by Sean Tretra, who we've spoken about on previous episodes, but additionally Kylie Rossiter, and quite interesting for the entertainment industry. It was very hard to find a picture of Kylie. It seems that she doesn't like a photo being taken, which, as I said, is quite unusual. But looking at Kylie's previous credits, she had worked as a production coordinator on some TV previously. But most of her credits are attributed to Star Trek Picard, where she's been the story editor across season 2 of Picard, and as I said, gets a full writing credit for this particular episode with Sean Tretter. So good stuff there, Kylie, even though I couldn't find a picture of you. That's good. And a gentleman we've talked about on previous seasons, not this particular season. So I felt that he definitely deserved a shout out with him and his team for what we see in episode or part 9 is production designer David Blass. As I said, he has been production designer on the previous seasons of Picard, but has done many other things, including Beauty and the Geek, Rectify, Longmire, Justified, Constantine, Secrets and Lies, Pitch, Preacher, The Boys, and Amazing Stories, in addition to his involvement with Star Trek. And I think apparently there was no CG. What we see at the end of episode 9, which we'll come to obviously, was a set that had been built by David Blass and his team. So congratulations to them on that. Yes, it was a set. So there you go.
But there was like CG when Shrike blew up and everything, right? Like
no. Yeah, I'm talking about where they end up at the end of episode 9. The bridge that they end up on. That's a set. It's not CG.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. But I also thought you meant like the model was.
No, not visual effects. No, production design, not
production design. No. Okay. I guess they pulled it out of storage.
Not visual. No. Apparently, it's not instant. They had to rebuild it, and we'll come on to that because there's something special about that as well. But yeah, I just felt it deserved a bit of a shout out. So, but should we get
dancing around it?
Huh?
We can say, right?
Yeah,
you're dancing around it.
Yeah, definitely. But it, we're going to talk about that in much more detail. So,
okay.
Shall we have a drink?
Yes.
You call it.
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
All right. So this is just a bit of fun. This is where we talk about Easter eggs, references, etc. across the episodes. Obviously, there are so many, both visually, audibly, musically, everything. It's just filled with references. These shows. But were there any that jumped out to you, Pete, in particular? Starting with part 8.
Okay. Actually, okay. I think I know where my I only have 4. Yeah, I know where my marker is between 8 and 9. I think the ones that really resonated with me in 8 were the data memories that he's passing over to Lore, the Tasha Yar memorial, right? Like what everyone got from her funeral, he hands over, and we get to see it turned on again. And I love that. All the Sherlock Holmes stuff, he hands over the cat and Spot, the cat, the hat and the cat, 2 different things. Sorry. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, that stuff I thought was just great. I suppose I didn't write this down, but thinking about it, a lot of the stuff between Riker and Troy harkens back to season 1 of Picard. But yeah. What else?
I almost felt that Riker and Troy stuff was supposed to have been in the previous episode. Do you know what I mean? It seems like it would have fitted better there, sort of timeline wise. But I did think that was a bit odd. But
it was a bit odd.
But yeah, in terms of you've spotted most of them actually that I've got there. So yeah, we've got all the Sherlock Holmes, the pipe reference, etc. we've got the poker cards, we've got the hologram of Tasha Yar, we've got Spot the Cat. You've said all of those, which is great. We have them sat around the board table, like they do, like they've done so many times before, which was kind of nice to see again. So we've
except
got
they're facing the wrong way.
Oh, they are. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that is very
Is that
true.
too nerdy?
That is very nerdy, but I like it. Yeah, so that's cool. One of the things I've got there, a book for those of you listening, not watching. I've got a cover of a Peter David novel called Imzadi 2. And the reason I put that up is there was that scene where when they're reunited with Worf, Riker and Troy, and there's a little bit of weird awkwardness there about having missed one another and whatever. And of course, we did have that thing in All Good Things, which was the series finale for Next Gen, where Worf and Deanna were going to sort of start a relationship, and Riker was somewhat jealous of this and whatever. And that was actually covered in a Star Trek novel called Triangle in Zadi 2. And I don't know, I felt that was a little reference there in that scene of awkwardness, So
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there was a load of other stuff in there as well. I did like the bit Picard's, which has been an ongoing joke in this, Picard's wine, Chateau Picard, got a kind of joke mention with them, trying to see whether Geordie was, just testing whether they were changelings or not. And Geordie also doesn't like
Chateau Picard.
Exactly. I'm
surprised they're doing that, because I don't know if you have it over there, but in the US, they've just started selling like Chateau Picard wine and Romulan ale, Star Trek wines and spirits.
Yeah, so, well, maybe they're making excuses for it already. But, and obviously, Data with the contractions, that is obviously a reference as well. In the episode Future Imperfect, Riker figures out that he's in a simulation and it's not Data, because he uses contractions, and Data would never do that. So that's another sort of, the show is so aplenty with references, isn't it? Just, I noticed Vadik did actually drop the F-bomb before she left the series.
She did. Well, we don't know if she left.
Well, yeah. I think she's pretty much gone, right?
I'm not convinced, but we'll get into that. But when when she dropped the F-bomb, I actually loved it. I thought that was perfect. And I would say that it doesn't violate your Star Trek rule, because she's not Starfleet, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah. No, I get it. That's fine. Okay, one thing here, and okay.
Oh.
Pete, you know that I like to amuse you, make you laugh by being somewhat self-deprecating and stuff, whatever. I've got a little surprise that's a bit indulgent, but I dug it out for you, which we'll get to in a minute. But I mentioned how sometimes, in fact, in the last episode where myself and Graham talk about The Mandalorian, I pointed out that something was a bit Star Trek in one of the Mandalorian episodes. But obviously we got something a bit Star Wars in this, because in Return of the Jedi, Leia, in her Boushh disguise, when she's bargaining with Jabba, pulls out a thermal detonator. And I just thought that the prop that Jack Crusher uses there at the end to as the ruse look very similar. I don't know. What did you think? What did you think?
It's almost the exact same play. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
I thought it was great. Yeah.
Okay, well, here's where, oh God, I'm almost scared to show you this next slide. So they, back in the day at Universal Studios, they would have a thing there called Star Trek The Experience. And it was where you could actually be on it was all done via blue screen, and you got dressed up in a Star Trek uniform, and you got to act out with scenes with actors from the movie, a little adventure with Klingons and whatever. And part of the ruse at the end of it, which I always thought was funny, was the captain, the trainee captain, bluffs by pulling out what they call a photon detonator, which again is a very similar prop. Now, when I visited Mum and Dad, I dug out a very old ropey VHS tape that I managed to get some screenshots from, which I apologize in advance for the poor quality. And I apologize to anyone listening to this as a podcast that can't actually see what I'm talking about here. But this is a very young me as what I call Captain Curtains.
Oh my God.
From the Star Trek adventure. And it's very hard to see in these pictures, but I am holding in that middle picture with the Klingons, I am holding a photon detonator. And Dr. McCoy, when I get back on the ship, is asking what's going on. And I say, it's not real. A gag gift from a friend was the script that we had. But I thought you might find this amusing.
That is fantastic.
This is me from the early 90s.
I love that uniform.
Yes.
You.
It was quite fun to get dressed up in the uniform. It's really the quality of the videotape was so bad, though. I mean, I'm amazed I even managed to get that. But yes, I called my character Captain Curtains for obvious reasons.
Amazing haircut reasons. Yeah. Hold in the middle picture. Is that all green screen as well?
It is. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, the McCoy, I guess McCoy looks different. You know what I mean? Like, but in the middle, I'd almost say those Klingons are right there with you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It was a silly thing, as I said, they did back at the time. And of course, I had to do it, obviously. And I've not changed a bit, right? Apart from the hairstyle.
No, I mean, this is just a couple of years ago, Keith. Don't forget, we would not be assimilated. No, we would be assimilated.
Put it this way, back then I would have definitely been assimilated. That is for sure.
You look like a teenager. Oh
anyway,
my God.
Well, yeah, I pretty
Were
much.
You?
But yes, apologies. It's very self-indulgent, but I did it to amuse you.
I love that.
And what made me think of it was that prop.
The thermal detonator?
Thermal detonator prop. And I just thought, hold on, they did that in the Star Trek adventure. And then I thought, oh, I wonder. And I said to Mum, and she goes, oh, yeah. We've still got the old videotape with that on. So I was like, oh, brilliant. So, they gave you that at the park. Basically, you'd go and do it. And then before you left the park, they'd have the copy ready for you to take home. And
amazing.
There's a whole people are out there going, videotape? What?
That is amazing. I can't believe we've been podcasting for so many years. I never know you did that. Yeah.
To quote Mr. Spock, I do not often talk of the past. But yes.
Yeah. That is a lovely Easter egg. Yeah.
Well, that's my own Easter egg. But back to Easter eggs for Part 9 Vox. So again, there were plenty here, but any that you want to highlight first, Pete?
Okay, so I think I only grabbed two, and I think one of them is the obvious one, and one of them I was proud that I caught. Okay, so the obvious one is Admiral Shelby shows up again.
Yeah.
Or not, Shelby shows up this time as Admiral.
Yeah.
Right? Shelby was from the was it Jellicoe, right? Episodes when
Shelby was actually from the Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2. She was the one. She was the one that wanted Riker's job, basically, and she'd been developing. Again, kind of ironic what happens in this episode. She had been developing weaponry to fight the Borg.
Yeah, and so, that's I got it wrong. But yeah, Shelby was there, wanted Riker's job with the Borg, won Best of Both Worlds, and now Shelby is an admiral. And so that was fun. And then the other TNG character callback is one of the ships was the SS Pulaski.
Yes, yeah, which was it was interesting because they had ships. Some of them that was an audio
only,
yeah, where they're mentioned in the comms, but then on the tactical sheet they have a load of other ones. I think there was like the USS Cochrane and the USS Hikaru Sulu and there were a number of different ones. I'm no doubt there will be channels out there that have spotted every one. I think there was a Cuda as well, USS Akuda.
Oh yeah,
for Michael
and Denise.
Yeah, there were a number of those. So yeah, but nice. Well, I've got a few on a slide here. So as you've absolutely already said, we had Admiral Shelby this time, played by Elizabeth Dennehy, reprising her role, as I said, from the Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2. And I believe that character featured in, there was a series of novels called Star Trek New Frontier, and it was
that sounds right.
Yeah, and it was the crew of the USS Excalibur, I believe, and I think her character was the first officer on that. So so it's kind of nice that they had her back. Obviously, I was wrong. You know, I said that they'd be attacking in the Enterprise F because it was going to be decommissioned. Well, we did see the Enterprise F, but obviously it was to celebrate Frontier Day and the anniversary of the NX-01, which is our nice Enterprise reference there, which I like. So yes, right about seeing the Enterprise F, just wrong about where and how, but never mind. What else? Obviously the Borg and the Borg Queen, once again voiced by Alice Krige.
Posthumously, right? Yeah.
No. Alice is still. It was the actress that played the Borg Queen in last season.
Oh, do I have them mixed up?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Whoops! I just killed that lady.
Annie Wishing, who we
that's right
to last season. She played the Borg Queen on in season 2 of Picard and is sadly passed now. Alice Krige, or I don't know whether it's pronounced Krige or Krige because it's German, but she obviously played the Borg Queen in First Contact and the Voyager finale, and then Susanna Thompson played the Borg Queen in the other Voyager episodes. So she's the she's the original one, but obviously there's been 2 other Borg queens and of course there's the whole Jurati Borg stuff, which doesn't count anymore, thankfully, and they explained that with a line of dialogue, didn't they? Which was good. But yeah,
did they? Wait, I missed the line of dialogue. Can you say
in an earlier episode? In fact, I think it might have been in the first one when what's his name? Todd Stanwyck's character. What's his name? Captain
Shaw.
Shaw, yeah, when Captain Shaw's dressing them down and he says, it was when they're in 10 forward and he's saying to Picard about the fact he served at Wolf 359 and he was an engineer and all this, and he said the Borg is still out there, and I don't mean the spin-off Borg group, so the Jurati Borg thing. So yeah, so that was there. so that was good. What else? Sure there was something
Well,
else.
Enterprise D.
Well, of course,
Bridge,
Enterprise D, which was a massive surprise because, I definitely didn't see that coming. As I said all along, I thought they'd be using the older Enterprise, or the Enterprise F, or they'd be using the Enterprise A or something. I thought they'd be on an Enterprise, but after what happened in Star Trek Generations, I really didn't think.
Yeah. Well, they blew it up, right, and crashed the saucer.
Well, they crashed the saucer and they blew up the drive section. But he explains in this that they, to keep with the Prime Directive, they had to salvage the saucer from the planet Viridian, which also means that's probably why they removed Kirk's dead body as well, to meet the Prime Directive. So I mean, to be fair, they are addressing everything, which is great. And then he got the drive section from another ship, and he restored the nacelles and all of this. And then the bridge, this is again back to in Star Trek Star Trek Generations, they actually did change the bridge because they changed it for film and for a widescreen format. And they put a couple of extra stations in sort of midway up. And I kind of like the way Riker goes, is it me or does it look a bit smaller? Because they've literally gone to they built this off of the original set. And I just love the fact that Picard addressed the carpet.
Yeah.
He goes, you think he's going to say something really profound, and he's like, seeing you all here, I realize what I've missed the most. And he says the carpet, which I thought was hilarious. But
I thought he was going to say something like the lighting.
Yes.
But yeah.
Well, they even went back to the bright lighting with that, didn't they? So they
although it took a long time, they ramped it up slow. I don't know if you noticed that. When they walked into the bridge, my first response was, "What? They didn't even turn the lights on in this one." But then by the end of 9, it was back to well lit.
Yes. No, that was great. I mean, I think they've handled all of this. I mean, okay, this one's a little bit of a stretch and a bit of a Easter egg for the fans and totally for the fans. But I mean, when you think about it, to go up against the Borg, the Enterprise E would have made more sense because that was actually designed to take on the Borg. But they obviously put that line in there as a joke where Worf says it wasn't his fault. I couldn't. Worf had his own adventures on that before this show. But yeah, I did. Well, I think everybody loved that, and that it was just the 7 that went on there, and conveniently 7 of 9 and Raffi
stay behind,
get caught, sort of holding down the Titan, as it were. But that was great. But anyway, I've got a bit of a wild speculation.
I can't wait.
I don't know whether you've got any, but how many lights are we talking about?
There are 4 lights.
Well, before I go there, have you got anything, any predictions for our finale? Anything you think's gonna? I mean, my big thought at the moment is, what a great penultimate end, but unless next week's episode is a feature-length one, I feel like they've got a hell of a lot to sort out in one episode. You know what I mean? I was like, whoa, hold on a second. The stakes are massive, which is great. But how are we going to solve all of this in one episode? How are they going to have a long episode next week, which they could potentially have? I just feel like it needs a feature-length episode to actually I mean, this is huge. The problems are massive, right? So
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this, which would probably be in the next section. But in terms of predictions, no, I mean, the Borg thing did take me by surprise. It's not what I was expecting.
did it? Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
I know you mentioned it, but I was like, I just don't understand that.
right.
But you know, I understand. I like it makes sense to me now. I will say, but
Because
yeah, I don't
that was
know.
one of the predictions we did get right, although we started looking at other options as well. But it said the Borg
Yeah,
fairly early on because
I feel like you said it, and I was like, I don't know.
right.
I think that was one that you had. Yeah,
I'll take
I
credit then.
yeah, because what I was saying was that it was going to be the AI from season one.
Right.
You were saying the Borg. Yeah,
Okay. Well, I don't know whether I'm going to be right about this one, but I'll go with it. If you've got nothing, I'll go with my prediction
yeah.
now. And bear with me. I'm going to have to explain this, right?
Do
Okay.
you have slides showing?
I
Yeah.
do have a slide, right? But okay. So Admiral Janeway has been mentioned several times. And I've
And
said
we saw
before,
Tuvok.
Kate Mulgrew does indeed. She does the voice for Prodigy, which you put me on to, by the way, which is great. So she's involved, right? But here's the thing. So 7 of 9 and Raffi are still on the Titan. It's now 7 of 9's ship because obviously we lost Shaw, which I thought was a great shame, but we'll get to that. So it's her ship now. And she's going to need to help Picard and co sort this big problem out, this you know, universe ending issue that we've got with the whole of Starfleet ships and personnel under the age of 25 either being assimilated by the Borg biologically or eradicated, right? So this is a big deal. How the hell are
Yeah.
they going to get out of this, right? So 7 of 9 is obviously an ex-Borg, and she has a very strong relationship with Janeway and with Voyager. And if you'll remember right, the Voyager finale, a future Captain Janeway, i.e., an older Captain Janeway, or an admiral then, in fact, came back to help her younger self defeat the Borg Queen, who was once again played by Alice Krige. Right? I'm wondering if Voyager and Janeway will get involved, maybe with the Defiant as well, which is a ship that was designed to battle the Borg also. Yeah. Whether somehow Janeway will use what she used in the Voyager finale to somehow help destroy this Queen and eradicate everything. And this Terry Matalis is going to be really clever because not only is he going to, you know, we've had the Deep Space Nine references through this, we've had obviously all the next gen references, but is he going to tie it up with Voyager as well, bearing in mind that an older Janeway helped her younger self defeat Alice Krige's Borg? How exactly, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of techno babble, I'm sure. But do you think that we're going to see that? We're going to see Voyager, 7 of 9, and Janeway, and maybe some other faces.
I would love that. Yeah. I have to go watch the Voyager finale again.
Me too, because I can't really remember. Which is why my plotting here is somewhat thin, because even though I remember that how they did it, I actually don't remember at all. But so yeah, I need to rewatch it. But yeah, I'm just wondering if they're going to do that. As I said, I've not got the answer of how they're going to solve it, but my prediction is that Janeway and Voyager will be involved in this.
I love that prediction. I really do. I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get more DS9 people in here, dealing with the changelings. Like we should have a Kira Nerys come in and.
Well, maybe she'll be in the Defiant.
Yeah.
Her and O'Brien or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
or Dr. Bashir. It's like,
Yeah, and the person who helps them do it is Cisco, because as a member of the Prophets, right, he is in and out of time.
Oh, wow.
So time and space, right? He could make that happen.
Yeah. That would be a massive coup, I think, if that happened. But we'll see. I don't know. But here's the other big question: do you think any of our 7 are going to? I mean, is Picard going to die at the end of this show? Bearing in mind this is the finale, or are they going to go off happily ever after?
So, conflicting thoughts on this. One is that it makes total sense, from a story arc to do it, to end the character. But 2, I sort of feel like, hey guys, you already wasted that in season 1.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you already did it. You also killed Data, right? Like
twice.
But in season 1, they killed Picard and Data, and they did it really well, right? Like, I don't think anything that they do now on that would be reductive, and I can't imagine them bringing anything new to it,
I agree. I don't think I think with all the references and love and whatever they've shown to the fans and to the next generation and all that, I think to have any of those main 7 characters die for any particular reason would be a disservice. And I actually think, Terry Matalas has shown lots of reference to Star Trek 6 throughout this, which for the original crew had kind of the perfect send-off. It's almost like Generations kind of ruined it a bit, because you had Kirk's final log, you had them all, on the Enterprise going back to be decommissioned, and then you get that whole signature bit with the cast at the end, which, by the way, apparently they did that in Avengers Endgame, and I saw an interview with Kevin Feige, and I didn't realize this, but he is a massive Star Trek fan, and he said that was actually a reference to Star Trek 6, getting them all to sign off, which I didn't know until I saw that interview. But there was that. I'm wondering whether we might get the poker game round the table, with them all to sort of mirror the end of.
I would love that.
And I'm also wondering if they'll show space, and they'll do each member of the crew having a line, the space, the final frontier voyages, blah blah blah, that whole monologue. But whether,
and that's how they ended Enterprise.
Yes, it was. You're right. Absolutely. So yeah,
so that'd be another great callback. Yeah.
I wonder whether they'll do something like that. But I must admit, I will be really surprised if any of the main 7 die. Whether or not, that was a question as well. While we're still on speculation, Beverly did actually mention Wesley.
Yeah.
Do you think Wesley will come back to help?
So again, I feel like they did a good send off of Wesley in season 2.
I'd use the term good very loosely, but yeah.
I mean, they checked back in with him, right?
And
and he did what I would expect Wesley to do, right? Like, he continued exploring. And I don't know. I was fine with Wesley's bit in season 2. That was one of the high points of season 2 for me. And so the only thing that makes me think that they will revisit it is because that's a crowbar to get Soji or Doll. I don't remember which one it is. It's none of them. Whoops. It's it's their ancestor. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's the 21st century version.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to get that actor back in.
Yes. Isa Baranis. Yeah, I think is her
Yeah.
name. Yeah. Isaac. But yeah, no, absolutely. Maybe they will. They've been sort of throwing everything at it, haven't they? So
That's another way that they could time travel and get I mean, he's probably more likely to come back to Star Trek than Avery Brooks, right? But yeah.
who's that? Sorry.
Will Wheaton or Issa Baronis.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I see what you mean. And I'm still wondering whether there's a big battle to be had here, right? And I'm still wondering whether I know I put out a really wild theory last time about the fact that the Enterprise A might be there and it might be captained by a particular, captain from history. And I don't know. Maybe nothing has surprised me at this stage. It's kind of who knows. Yes.
Okay. Well, that sort of gets into my nitpicks. Do you want to go
All
to
right.
nitpicks?
Well, should we draw a line? Let's draw a
Yeah,
line.
let's draw a line.
Line must be drawn here.
Okay.
So, oh no, sorry, wrong slide.
Too far.
Yeah.
Lots of thoughts.
Okay.
Lots of little nitpicks.
Yeah. Do you want to do it per episode or overall?
I think I just have it overall. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay, I've been making fun of it all the time. I'll just keep doing it. The lighting on the Titan was the best it's ever been when Vedic was in control of the bridge. It was the best light bridge we've ever seen. One. And then two, took a long time for the Enterprise D bridge to light up. That really annoyed me.
Let me ask you about things that annoy you. 1 second. The end of, obviously, because we're doing two together here, this is a very different conversation to if we had last week done Surrender, but were you frustrated by the ending of Surrender not giving us any more answers at that point where they left it?
I was not.
No. Okay.
It goes into my overall nitpick, which is that I feel like a lot of the writing and a lot of the timing is just off. And it's doubly frustrating because they do some really great stuff. And so what I will say is that the first half of both of these episodes felt like garbage to me, kind of, right? Where like just garbage. It felt like garbage. It was like filler. It was misplaced. There was odd lines and stuff that I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense to me, right? But then once they got into it, I was like, yes, let's go, right? And so the end of Surrender, I will answer your specific question. By that point, I was like, yeah, that's awesome, right? They started to dig in. And what I loved is like, it's one of the best uses of Diana Troy, out there, right? Where she comes in and she's right away, hey, my half betazoid powers allow me to sense things and help people work through things. And it was like perfect, she came in and right away sensed something's off on the ship. There's a dark presence on the ship is the line that she kept saying, which is what I, had been using to make fun of. But, and so like, I dug it. I was really into it. I also really liked how the getting her to talk with Jack was talked through in so many different ways it felt very logical and sensical, right? It wasn't like a scene where just all of a sudden Jack and Diana Troy are together, right? Anyway, so but then contrast that with Raffi literally bringing a knife to a gunfight. Contrast it with Worf saying that at many points I wanted to send you the heads of my enemies, but I was told that was passive aggressive. And I'm like, no. Wait a second. Number one, sending the heads of your enemies to people is aggressive, not passive aggressive, right? Like, you totally misunderstood passive aggressive. And then two, you told us that you preferred not being violent just in the last episode, right? So what are we talking about cutting people's heads off now on the regular? Like, that is not a non-violent solution. So either one, Worf has no idea what non-violence or passive aggressive means, or two, the writers just wrote those lines in because they thought they'd be funny and they didn't pay attention to what it actually meant for the characters. Sorry, I realize I'm getting nerd angry, and so I will try to step back, but like, it made me angry.
Okay.
And then the other thing that made me angry as we get into episode 9, one minor anger was the space fireworks, where yet again I have to say that's not how physics work, right? Like, you do not have fireworks in space. And it makes me angry. And then number 2 is
sorry. Yeah.
It's a vacuum. Anyway, yeah, just like for context, right? If you look at those, the explosions go out and then go down as if there was gravity in the vacuum of space. Interesting, but no. Okay, and then 2, they don't have Jack Crusher. They got Picard Senior, which is how they got the DNA into everyone. 100% plan makes sense, right? If Picard is the receiver DNA, you need to put that out into everyone in Starfleet. If Crusher is the broadcasting DNA, he needs to be on, the Vedic ship or something, right? Like, otherwise, they only have half of the puzzle, but then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, no, it's working. And I was like, wait, what? You literally don't have Jack Crusher.
Right. Because obviously I was thinking about this a lot as well, because that's been the whole
point.
The whole thrust of Vadic's arc has been to get Jack Crusher for that reason, right? But this whole Borg Changeling alliance, I was scratching my head a little bit about that. And to be fair, I mean, everything's been there. Like, Ro didn't want to use the transporters. Yeah, and even Vadic didn't want to use the transporters. And when Jack was having his visions, when he went into the transporter room, he saw that, didn't he, through the transporters, the red vision thing. So that all kind of adds up and makes sense. But
makes sense.
Yeah, but the bit I was trying to join the dots with was why the changelings and Borg were working together, but also to infiltrate the highest levels of Starfleet.
Well, actually, that made sense to me.
Okay. But then, like you said, Jack, then they didn't get him because they didn't get him. Vadic, right? And with the photon detonator thing, and Jack has now gone off on his own. So it does kind of, was that what, if that's what they wanted all along for him to go and see the Borg Queen. Yeah, I must admit, I'm trying to I've only watched it the once. I'm trying to sort of get my head around that as well. But
I've watched it 3 times, but obviously, like, I usually miss things. But like the second time I watched it, at the end of it, I was like, hey, wait a second. If what they're saying is that Picard is the receiver and Jack is the transmitter, right? They need both parts to work. They only have the receiver, and they use that effectively. The transmitter, they never show. And also, if Jack is a transmitter, it doesn't make sense that in the earlier episodes, he was listening to people's thoughts, right? What would have made more sense is if in other episodes, like Sidney LaForge could have been able to hear his thoughts, not the other way around, right?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I'm trying to do this in my head now. So one of the things that does tie up and make sense was in Star Trek First Contact, which I love, right? One of the puzzles with that was that Picard could hear the Borg.
Yeah.
Which was the whole thing behind the plot and how he knew how to disrupt the Borg cube before they dispensed the Borg sphere that took them back in time, to First Contact and all this sort of thing. So that makes sense because Picard, even though he had all the Borg implants removed and whatever, he could still hear the Borg. So that sort of lines up, and we've now I can't say it. The Irremotic syndrome thing wasn't that. It was what the Borg had left there, right? But is it that Vadik was trying to capture Jack to take Jack to the Borg Queen, but now Jack has done that off his own back? So that's how he got there, rather than Vadik taking him to the Borg Queen. I mean, that's the way I'm sort of reading that.
I think that's giving the writers a lot of leeway, and it's annoying to me that we need that kind of leeway when they're spelling out so many other things.
Right. Because obviously Jack went to the Queen and took over the guards to get off the Titan, and go to the location that the Queen was at, but
to get transwarped,
right? But
off to God knows where.
Yeah. So, but I guess that's what Vadik wanted, right? That was her plan.
I thought Vadik was bringing him to the Frontier Day.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. It doesn't quite add up, does it?
It doesn't add up. And so this just goes back to my bigger picture thing that is annoying me, right? Is that and I think I've said this earlier. They've wasted time, they've wasted pacing. And now I feel like we're where we're at with season 1, where they wasted time, they wasted pacing, they wrote weird stuff in that they didn't need to, that didn't make sense. And so they have set themselves up for failure in the finale, which is doubly frustrating when every episode, I think they've also done good work. Every episode, they've had gems, purely great moments in there. And they do have the door open for them to make just a fantastic closeout to Picard, which would live up to the absolutely fantastic, one of the all-time best series finales with All Good Things, right? And so as a fan, I really, really want to see that. As a a person with critical views, and right.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm worried.
my worry is, as I said at the beginning of this, is they've got a huge problem to solve in one episode. That is my worry, and they made this mistake in season one big time. Well, actually, season one and two, they're both of them. The penultimate episode left with like a major thing that they had to sort out, and it wasn't very satisfactory. And so far, everything they've done has been satisfying. So far,
Yeah.
right down to. By the way, I meant to say the other thing I liked when they got on the Enterprise D bridge is you had Majel Barrett doing the you've gone
Yeah.
muted, but
No,
yes.
sorry. There's a lot of noise in the background.
Right.
My dog's barking, and so I'm trying to mute on occasion. But yeah. I meant to say that in the Easter eggs. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and that was great because obviously she did everything right up to Star Trek 2009. Before she passed, but she did all of the computer voices for everything, and that was kind of cool as a callback to use that recording.
Yeah, I loved hearing her voice again.
Yeah. No, I did like that a lot. Yeah, you've got me thinking now about what exactly was Vadic's plan, because it must have been to bring him to the, because it was the Borg Queen was obviously that weird sort of communication thing that Vadic was doing, right? That must have been the Borg Queen, right?
Oh,
communicating with.
I did not take that, but okay, sure. Maybe.
I'm guessing the thing was to take Jack to her, which obviously has happened now off of Jack's own back.
Volition,
yeah. But I don't know. As I said, it is my puzzle now. Theories aside, with my whole thing about Janeway, which they've mentioned her several times, so I really do think that, and obviously Janeway has defeated the Borg Queen before, so I do think something there. But how they're going to do this in one episode, presuming it's an hour-long episode or whatever of television, does puzzle me.
Yeah.
Also, not only to do that, not only to solve the problem, but also to have a satisfying send-off to everyone, which that's a lot of characters and a lot of threads. It's not just the 7, it's also 7 of 9, and Raffi, and there's a lot of stuff to. Also, I do find it odd that the Rikers haven't mentioned their daughter.
They mentioned her in passing.
Did they? Okay.
In their therapy.
I need to go back and kind of watch it all again. But I did feel that some of those Riker Troy scenes were from a previous episode. It felt like when they were captives. But yeah. I mean, props to Terry Matalis, honestly.
I mean, okay, so I am much more measured in my admiration. I do feel like there was room for some improvement. There are things that I wouldn't have done, but I also want to respect their process as artists, right? And the art that they're trying to make. But for me, I got annoyed a lot.
Would you say this season has been way too fan servicey?
No. Honestly, the best parts of this season have been the quote unquote fan service things, because the fan service things they have done well.
Yes, I agree.
And so like there's nothing wrong with fan service when you're telling a good story and you're doing it well, and you're not just jamming it in for no reason, right? So the parts of this season that I have hated have been the parts where they just sort of like sit down and then go off on these like ruminations on fatherhood, which maybe that's my problem, right, with my own personal life, but also like it's my own relationship with being a father, and that's the problem there. But maybe I also, it's like that's not at all fan servicey, right? Like
That's
I don't
been
think anything.
the themes of this entire season. Yeah, whether it's Picard, Geordie, Riker, and
Mm,
Troy, even Data to a certain extent. It's been about offspring and you know
well, yeah, but then they never mentioned Lal after the first time, right?
that's true.
Like I that's doubly frustrating to me, right?
Yeah,
I think that goes to like the pacing issues and like I see some of the stuff where I think like as someone who has written, as someone who has read a lot and like tried to produce stuff, like I think I understand slightly the workings of entertainment, right? I'm not just your normal fan sitting on the sidelines
mhm.
enjoying it, and and so it frustrates me when I see these themes and motifs that you would expect them to iterate on and play with, and then they only half do it. They drop the ball in the middle, right? Or they pick it up in one section and then drop it in another section and do something totally different. And that frustrates me. That makes me angry. And so I I am more reserved in my praise for Terry Metalis and
Yeah. No.
everyone. But
Fair enough.
um,
I think I'm
can
just
I?
envious. I'm just envious that he's a fan in that position to be able to
Yeah.
influence this stuff, which would be cool to be able to do. But um, what was I going to say? I think.
Can I?
Oh,
Can
sorry.
I?
Carry on. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just gonna, as I feel like bad about maybe poo-pooing on Terry Metalis. Let me just say that Gates McFadden has a podcast, Investigates, where she sits
Nice.
down and interviews people.
Yeah.
And she has interviewed a lot of the old standbys, right? I highly recommend. And she sat down with Terry Metalis, came out a couple weeks ago. It's great.
Oh, okay. I need to check that out. I might ask you to send
Yeah,
me the link.
I will.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Because I try, as you well know, I try and avoid um reviews and stuff until I've had the opportunity to do this and to not be influenced, if you like,
Yeah.
before having my say on my thoughts. But I did listen to, I can't credit it because I can't remember exactly where I read this or heard this, but I did I did see something where I thought it was quite an interesting observation because weirdly, our other show, another show on this channel is looking at The Mandalorian, which is also in its
Hmm.
third season and actually has just had the penultimate episode of that as well, before the season finale rather than series finale, which it is for Picard. But somebody made an observation, and I think it's quite interesting that they said it's almost like they've swapped places. Like the first two seasons of Picard were pretty dreadful, and the third season is kind of righted all that so far.
Yeah.
And their view was that the first two seasons of Mandalorian was very enjoyable and really, whereas this season, this has been a very inconsistent season of the Mandalorian. Please check out our our stream on that one. But I just thought that's kind of interesting that the two shows are sort of literally to the same week in the same place. With
Oh,
they've
that
just
is
had the
interesting.
penultimate, and next week is the finale. So that's quite interesting.
And do you think that, because I'm sorry, I think I'm like 3 weeks back on Mandalorian.
Right.
Do you think that the Mandalorian has been overly fan servicey, or has it been skipping the fan service?
No, it's had its fair share. Whether or not it's been done as well, I don't know, because there's a lot of mythology that it goes into. But I'm well, you can see in the streams my thoughts, but I'm up and down with it. I think I've more consistently enjoyed this season of Star Trek whereas the Star Wars season has been a bumpy ride for me. But if I'm just being totally honest, because I love both franchises in different ways, but they've all both of them stem from my childhood, and they've been there, in some form or another, constantly through life. There's been more gaps in Star Wars, obviously, but they've been there, and I'm liking what we're getting with Star Trek this season. And I'm super pumped for Strange New Worlds season 2, which will be the next thing we'll obviously cover once Picard is done. So
I can't wait.
But both franchises now. I'm not particular about being a completist in both franchises. Like, there are shows that I love, and then there are parts of it that aren't really for me, and that's on both sides of that sort of Star Wars, Star Trek line. And I apply the same to Marvel as well these days. So that's a whole nother thing.
Whole other thing.
So have you got anything else then that you want to add? Any other nitpicks, thoughts?
I think I have severely nitpicked this episode, these 2 episodes. And so I do just want to end by saying there's a lot in here that I loved. Right? And that I thought was really compelling shows. Right. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Oh yeah, can't wait for the finale. So and I want us to try and get, I know a lot of this is down to me, but I want us to try and get our episode out next week much quicker, so that we're ahead of the curve, if you like. We've got our thoughts out there, if that's possible. But
actually, it is going to be partly my problem too, because next Friday I can't record with you. But
right, okay. Well, listen.
It'll have to be Saturday.
First things first. Our rank. I haven't been doing this on Mandalorian, but we've obviously got our ranking system for Star Trek, which is our rank pins. So how many rank pins are you giving this episode?
Okay, first let me say you're missing a beat by not doing the midichlorian count on each of the Mandos.
Right. But, maybe next season.
Maybe next season.
Yeah. No, that's that. I like it. Very good.
Okay, and then for this one, I think in honor of Data and Lore coming together.
Actually, do you want to do both? Sorry. Yeah, both parts. So part 8 and part 9. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you're right. Okay. So then, all right. I do have to say that part 8 I was really annoyed with. Mostly because of like how long it took to do interesting things, and so I will give part 8 a lieutenant junior grade. I think one of the lines I wrote down from part 8 that I didn't make fun of was, "We need to take manual control or we lose everything." I wrote that down as possibly one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. But anyway, so lieutenant junior grade for part 8, in honor of Data and Lore, and Data's rebirth, lieutenant commander for part 9.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So part 8, I was going to do a lieutenant commander for part 8, but I have to say for part 9, and it's just for where it took it and ended for me, I'm going to give it a captain.
Okay.
Really enjoyed it. And
you're a sucker for an Enterprise D. Yeah,
I did. I was quite emotional with the Enterprise D. I very unexpected. I mean, kind of one could say it's a bit silly, a bit nonsensical, but one other thing, I know we've kind of covered it now, but I was going to ask you about Shaw and how you felt about Captain Shaw's demise.
You're right. I do think they did Captain Shaw dirty, right? Killing him off. He was one of the best characters that the writers just insisted on crapping on every time they could. I do think it is another it's a real dick move to give somebody a ship that has been overtaken by the enemy and then saying you're in command. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That was also another one of my little nitpicks, was that they said the engineering or the maintenance levels were the lower decks, right? But if you think about it, the only reason that maintenance levels are low on Earth, right, is because that's where it's easier for us to put stuff out of the way and hidden, right? No windows on the ground floor. In a starship, windows all around the outside. The maintenance would be in the middle, not the bottom. Maintenance would be dead center. Anyway, sorry, I'm you put the maintenance stuff in the core, surround it with living and stuff that wants to look out with windows.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anything to add?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, let's open a channel. So
all right. The Let's See What's Out There podcast is available at LSWOT Cast on all social medias, or you can check out lswotcast at gmail.com. I'm available at Too Many E's on Twitter, or you can find me on Instagram as well. I don't know what my handle is there, but if you look up LSWOT Cast, I'm sure you'll find me. Keith, where can people find more of you and your work?
Yeah, I've got another channel which is British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name, which has got some short films. As I've already mentioned, we also do on this channel, Let's See What's Out There Plus, which is looking at The Mandalorian. So please check that out. And also check out some of the home media reviews on this channel. I've got them covering the Star Trek films, for example. So, yeah, please do check that out as well. So, Pete, yeah, there we go. One more to go, and we'll see how it goes next week. But thanks for joining me as always, and thank you out there for checking this out. And we will see you next time on
Let's See What's Out There.
Bye for now.